What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be telling you how you can get easy solo wins in Fortnite's zero build playlist. Before I played comp at all this season, I had like a 40% win rate and a 9 KD, so I find it really easy to win in the zero build mode. I'm going to be telling you everything I know and everything I think about the zero build mode in today's video so that hopefully you can get more solo wins or whatever game mode that you end up playing. We're going to focus mostly on solos today, even though a lot of this will be applicable to the other modes. If you guys do find this video helpful or informative, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more. Comment down below what you think of the zero build mode. Are you happy it's its own playlist? I feel like a lot of players are happy it remained as its own playlist, but personally, I would really like to see normal pubs come back to the game because I find the zero build mode really easy. Also, if you want to watch me stream on Twitch, it will be linked down in the description down below. If you need more tips or just see how I play the game or how I think about the game, often explain like what I'm doing and why as I'm playing, and that could be really helpful for you if you're struggling making decisions in game. The first thing we're going to talk about today is what you want to carry in your inventory, because guns and items matter a lot more in this mode, I feel like, than they do in the other modes, because shooting is the only thing that matters in this. Normally we have building, so shooting doesn't matter as much, and building kind of becomes more important in fights and like how you position and boxing people. But in just this mode, all you have is your guns, and it really matters what you use. So we're going to start off with the AUG assault rifle. I think the AUG is much better than the Ranger and much better than the thermal, so I'd highly recommend using the AUG, and this seems to be like the general consensus among most players, is that the AUG is the best assault rifle. For shotguns, I normally like the striker pump. For arena or when the building modes come back, I prefer the striker pump. But for the no build mode, I think that the spammy shotguns are actually a lot better because you can't build to protect yourself between shots, and we have the overshield that gives everybody more HP. And one of the nice things about the pump is that you can deal a lot of damage in one shot and hopefully make the opponent like really weak or just kill them in one shot. But with the overshield and with the inability to protect yourself after shooting, I feel like the pump just doesn't do enough damage to make the kill easy afterwards. And using something like the auto shotgun or the drum shotgun is much preferred, especially because we're going to want to start most of our fights off with AR tags, but we'll get to that in a moment. So I would prefer the drum shotgun in this game mode, and then the auto shotgun, and then the pump. That's how I would rank them. It's also a lot of people that play really petty in this game mode, and if you come across someone hiding in an obscure place with a combat or with a drum shotgun, and you don't have one, they're probably just going to win that fight. So I'd recommend using the shotguns with higher fire rates because you can't protect yourself with building, and you have a lot more like long drawn out fights. Normally in Fortnite, you need to deal a lot of damage with one shot because you don't get very many opportunities to shoot an opponent because of how building is. But without building, you have all the time in the world to just sit there and repetitively shoot them with the drum shotgun or with the auto shotgun. So I'd recommend using one of those. And then you're also going to want an SMG. I think both are pretty viable, but with the recent nerfs to the combat SMG, I've been using the Stinger SMG more just because it's way easier to use, and they both kind of do similar damage now with the combat SMG nerfs. You're going to want shockwaves for sure, and we're going to get to that later on in the video, where you're going to land to get shockwaves every game. And then also, as far as healing items go, I like to use chug splashes a bunch. I think chug splashes are the ideal healing item for this mode. Chug splashes are always good, but in this mode, I feel like even more so than normal because you can't build to protect yourself. If you get fried, you can't like box yourself and pop a big pot or pop a med kit. You need to be able to heal yourself immediately, and that's why I think splashes are the best item. And then shockwaves, like I said, are super important. Without building, you can't protect yourself once you start getting shot. And if you need to rotate quickly in game out in the open, you just literally can't do it without shockwaves. So I think shockwaves are probably the single most important thing in the game in the zero build mode. It's pretty much all that matters. And that's going to really influence where you land, because I would highly recommend landing at Sanctuary or Synops. The reason for that is both of these POIs have NPCs that sell shockwaves. And if you have been playing the zero build mode without shockwaves, you are doing it wrong. It just basically every sort of like difficulty that the mode has, shockwaves just bails you out. If you're in a bad spot and like you have no cover in between you and where you need to get, you could just shockwave. If zone goes up a hill and you can't build up it, you could just shockwave. If you fry somebody and want to push them, you could shockwave onto them, and that's going to be how I'm going to be getting a majority of my kills, as you'll see in the gameplay, is just hitting somebody with a few bursts of the AUG and then shockwaving onto them with the drum shotgun or the auto shotgun, and there's really nothing they can do. It's really easy. It's really simple. The skill gap in this mode is pretty much non-existent. All you need is decent aim and shockwaves, and you're probably going to win the game. So I would recommend landing at Sanctuary or Synops. There's guaranteed NPCs that sell shockwaves there. They're the 7 members. So at Synops, it's the scientist, I believe. And then at Sanctuary, the Foundation sells shockwaves as well. And like I said, if you haven't been carrying them so far this season, and then you start carrying shockwaves, I feel like your win rate is going to go up drastically, because we just don't have anything else for mobility or to like actually protect ourselves in game. So shockwaves are super important. And another thing that's super important that for some reason I don't see people doing, I feel like a lot of people have just kind of developed bad habits from Fortnite because you could always build, is I don't really see people strafing in fights, and I don't really see people using cover in fights. So if you're in a mid-range AR fight, you want to have some form of cover. If you don't have some form of cover, you need to be strafing and like crouch spamming a decent amount. That way you make your target harder to hit for other players. If you're shooting at somebody, which would you prefer? Them just stand there and take it, or them move around and crouch spam? Obviously, you would prefer that the opponent just stands there and takes it and is a super easy target to hit. And that's what a lot of people are doing, and that's what you might be doing in some fights as well if you're just standing still. So make sure you're strafing a lot, make sure you're crouch spamming a lot. And this goes for SMG fights or shotgun fights as well. And that's why the auto shotty or the drum shotty are much better, I think, is because it's easier to strafe and easier to crouch spam with those fully automatic shotguns. And just like close range, you can even throw in some jumps as well to like throw your opponent off. But just standing there and just being idle is really bad. And so you want to be using cover as much as possible in mid-range fights. For some reason, if you don't have the ability to use cover, make sure you're strafing, make sure you're crouch spamming. And the same thing goes for close range. Make sure you're strafing, make sure you're crouch spamming, make sure you're jumping. Do all of these things that make your person hard for the opponent to hit, and you're going to come out on top, because unfortunately the skill gap in this 0 build mode is very low, and just doing something minor like that could be the difference maker in a fight, because a lot of fights are going to come down to you and the opponent just trading damage, because there's not really a really safe way to play. And then cover as well. If you put something solid between you and the opponent, they can't actually shoot you, and that gives you a huge advantage. Blimps are incredibly overpowered this season. I feel like that kind of goes without saying. Everybody knows the blimps are OP, but pretty much mid-game, all you need to do is go to the blimp and camp it. It's really annoying, and it's really cheesy, but it's annoying when other people do it, and if you're on the blimp, at least you can stop other people from getting to it. And then you also have the cannons for rotation, and I feel like rotating is one of the more difficult things in this game mode, because if you get shot, you're probably just dead. If you're out in the open, there's nothing really you can do, especially if you don't have shockwaves. But I pretty much always just clear my POI, I loot, I buy my shockwaves, and then I go to an area that has a blimp, and then I just control the blimp. And I sit up there and kill people. I kill people that come to me. And then if zone goes off the blimp, I just cannon to zone. And if zone goes on the blimp all game, then you pretty much are just going to win. Whoever controls the blimp is going to win. And that's typically how endgame goes in the 0 build mode. Whoever has the ideal positioning is probably going to win. So as you're getting closer to in-game, you want to try to like identify which positioning or which spot in the zone is going to be best for you to control. If there's a mountain, if there's an important house to control, if like one spot just has way more cover than the others, that's what you want to do. And you're not always going to get zone, but controlling the important part in zone is so much easier than having to take it from somebody else. So if you have the ability, try to get the important spots in zone. And then even if you are controlling the good spot and you end up not getting zone and you have to rotate off, hopefully you have some shockwaves and it makes rotating really easily, because people really can't shoot at you if you're shockwaving into where you need to go. So it's another reason why shockwaves are good. And if you're in a zone where there's really no important spot, or just in general, even if there is an important spot, it's kind of best to be on edge. And sure, you might get zone screwed, but we're going to have shockwaves, so you should be good. But being on edge is really good because you can't protect yourself. This pretty much goes for every battle royale, but it's something that Fortnite players really haven't had to think about as much because we have building. But without building, it's hard to protect yourself or hard to like have cover. And if you're on edge of zone, like let's say the 180 degrees behind you is all out of bounds essentially, then you don't have to worry about it as much, and you don't have to worry about protecting yourself from that direction as much. But if you're in center zone, you can be shot from like all 360 degrees. And that's why it typically isn't best to be center zone. I think it's best to just control whatever positioning is important, especially if it's an edge spot. If there's 2 mountains and one is center and one is edge, you might want to be on the edge mountain. And then even if you don't get zone and you have to rotate, hopefully you have shockwaves and then you can use those to rotate. I think shockwaves are super important, like I've said many times in this video. So that's going to be it for this video. Make sure you're carrying the right stuff. Make sure you have shockwaves. Control the blimps mid-game, and then end-game try to control whatever high ground or whatever like ideal strategic spot there is, whatever has the best cover, whatever has the high ground, and whatever has good positioning in zone relative to the edge, and you're probably going to get easy wins because a lot of Fortnite kids don't know all of that stuff that I just told you, even though it is incredibly simple and probably a lot of that you already knew but didn't really think of. If you employ that, you're going to have a really easy time winning in the zero build mode. If you guys did enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more, comment down below what you thought or what you think of Fortnite zero build mode, and if you want to watch me live, once again, it will be linked down in the description below. Thanks for watching.